franchise. We don't own these centers. But I want to connect them together because there's strength in numbers. And we can get Minneapolis and Boston and Cleveland and Cincinnati and Pittsburgh all rowing in the same direction. The rising tide will lift all the boats, and we're going to try to get some federal legislation passed to support these things. But it's an independent, standalone program for the community where it's built. That's really important. Number two, it is devoted to people that everybody doesn't want to work with. That's really important for you to understand. The people that I represent in Pittsburgh, these are they're called at-risk kids in the arts program and unemployed adults in the vocational school. I work with welfare moms and single parents and people who've lost a job. People that everybody's running away from is exactly the people that come to my center. There's also no fee for this center. This is free. That's the reason why I have to raise the money, so I can provide a free service to people that deserve a free service and a good service. So let me show you the centers that I built, and since we don't have a clicker, Amy back here is going to be the slide projector lady. But Bidwell, that's the center we built. This was the scale model for the Pittsburgh Airport. So if you ever fly into Pittsburgh Airport, that's our center. This happens to be in the toughest neighborhood in Pittsburgh with the highest crime rate, which is my neighborhood, which is exactly where it needed to be built. And in 26 years of operation in this multi-million-dollar training center, we've never had one act of violence, drugs, alcohol, or theft. There's no metal detector. There are no cameras in this building. And we have never had one incident. Now, unfortunately, my old high school is still there, 4 blocks away. And unfortunately, most of the time it's in lockdown, with bars in the windows and metal detectors in the same neighborhood. So there are two possibilities. Bill Strickland's the luckiest guy in Pittsburgh, or we think that there's something to be said for treating people with dignity. And I believe that centers like this are part of the cure for cancer of the spirit. That's why I went to all this trouble to build this thing. There's nothing accidental about this building. We raised a ton of money. We built it to look like a world-class training center for welfare mothers and single parents and people who've lost their job and at-risk public school kids. That's my constituency. Next slide. That's the entrance to the building. Without apology, I've created an environment that's beautiful for people. We have quilts and calligraphy and clay, and everywhere your eye turns in this facility, there's something beautiful looking back at you. That's quite deliberate. And we've never had one act of defacement or graffiti or theft since we've had the facility open, supposedly in the toughest neighborhood in Pittsburgh with the highest crime rate. We have the highest murder rate in Pittsburgh. We've never had an incident. We've never had any theft. We've never lost a screwdriver since we've been open. So we now know with absolute certainty that if you treat human beings with dignity, oftentimes they'll treat you that way as well. Next slide. We have calligraphy and clay and so forth. Next slide. That's our boardroom. I commissioned a Japanese cabinet maker to do 60 pieces of furniture for our school. I hired this guy from Kyoto, Japan. And he turned out to be a pretty extraordinary guy. We've actually spun him off into his own business. He has a year waiting list doing furniture for rich folks. But I got 60 pieces out of it from the school. Next slide. Now, those aren't plastic, those are real. I actually have real flowers in the building every day. Now, I don't want to offend anybody's sensibilities, but I'm not a promoter of plastic flowers. I think that the students that come to my school deserve real flowers. The cost is incidental. The gesture is very significant. People are a function of little things, not just big things. And sunlight and good food and flowers cures cancer. Next slide. That's at Christmas time. Next slide. I hope you all eat Heinz ketchup up here in Minneapolis. If you don't, you ought to start. I don't know where your politics are about ketchup, but I stand with ketchup. In the old days, before I got real sophisticated, I had a cardboard box built at this center, and I had the thing in a garbage bag, and I was trying to raise money. So I'm dragging this bag all over Pittsburgh, and I got called into the office of United States Senator John Heinz, who happened to be the heir to the Heinz ketchup fortune, which was like going to see the Wizard of Oz, because he had about $600 million at the time, now at about 60 cents. And the guy says, man, you've done a great job with the black folks and the poor people, and we understand you want to build a new school. I said, yes, sir, I do. He said, well, you can really help the Heinz Company's affirmative action goals out if you'd add a culinary program in the new school when you get it built, and that way we could hire some black people.
All right.
Well, back then we were a building trades program, bricklaying and carpentry. I said, Senator, I'm really reluctant to go into a field I don't know anything about, but I promise you, if you'll help me get the school built, I'll come back in a couple of years and we'll get that food program going just like you asked. And he sat real quietly. He said, well, what would your answer be if I said I'd give you $1 million? I said, Senator, it appears that we're going into the food training. And we built this thing, and the head of research for the Heinz Company helped us to develop the facility. We built an amphitheater, and we bring in chefs who do product presentations from all over the world, essentially every other month. The Chefs Association meets at this center, and the last time we looked, we had 85% of our students working in the industry for which they were trained within 12 months of graduation. Now, we don't train people for the fast food industry. We train people for the gourmet food industry. Private clubs, country clubs, institutional cooking, but done to a gourmet standard. And we can do this in less than 12 months, and it's worked out pretty good. Next slide. That's our pastry department. Next slide. We took the design from a Ritz-Carlton hotel, and I built a Ritz-Carlton kitchen. So these students are being trained on a Ritz-Carlton environment. Next slide. That's the cafeteria. Next slide. And that's in celebration of the salmon I caught in Lake Michigan. Brought back to Pittsburgh. I had all this fish in these cougars. I thought, what am I going to do with all this fish? Have a party. So I gave the fish to the culinary department. We did our version of a fish fry, which was smoked salmon and salmon with gravlax and so forth. And I invited them 100 of my corporate plates to this fish fry. And one guy was so taken with the concept of the center, he gave us a check for $300,000. One salmon, $300,000. Calculate the return on investment for that one piece of salmon. So as you might suspect, we now do salmon presentations quite regularly in our school. Next slide. This is the work the students are doing after 6 months. These are all the poor folks who supposedly don't have any talent or any ability. But what we've been able to discover about poor people is the only thing wrong from what we can tell is they don't have any money, which is a curable condition. It's all in the way that you think about people that drives behavior. You build world-class centers, you get world-class performance. You build prisons, you get prisoners. And that's what Welfare Mothers is doing after 6 months in this multi-million-dollar training center in the inner city of Pittsburgh. Next slide. We emphasize color and texture and presentation. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. That's all pastry. I actually sat down and ate a whole basket one time. It was very good. But it's a great demonstration of the power of the human spirit. This is what poor people are doing in 6 months in my center in Pittsburgh. So there is nobody on this planet that can tell me that I don't know what I see every day when I go to school. Next slide. That's our dining room. Looks like your average school cafeteria in your hometown, right? We do a lot of black tie functions at our school. Medical Association, Engineer Society, and so forth. It's cross-marketing. This is the image that I want to drive into people's homes about what the inner city looks like. It's supposed to look like that. This is our concept, what a school's supposed to look like. Next slide. We also train pharmaceutical technicians for the pharmacy industry. This is certified by the American Pharmaceutical Association, and we get close to 100% placement with our pharmaceutical technicians. Now, these are people with no background in science who are doing science applications in 10 months, and they're going to work in the medical industry big time. University of Pittsburgh Medical Center and so forth. The retail pharmacies hire our guys. We've never looked back. Next slide. We also train chemical technicians for the chemical industry. Bayer, Calgon Carbon, BASF, Nova, Fisher Scientific, Alcoa. You come visit us, and a number of you have, and we invite all of you to come. You'll see welfare moms doing analytical chemistry using logarithmic calculators within 12 months of enrollment in the program with no background in science. I have 40 research technicians working for the Bayer Chemical Company in Pittsburgh today. Welfare people. So we now know with absolute certainty that there's no reason to be living like this. All these people that are considered liabilities are actually assets.